Internet voting sounds like a good idea, fast, modern, convenient. But what are the risks? People often don't think about what could go wrong, but in computer security, this is the question we ask every day.
We don't really have a technology today to do online voting. We can do online banking, we can do e-government, we can do a lot of things. But voting has a unique set of problems.
The number one risk is the fact that online elections really can't be audited effectively because there's no paper trail.
A free and fair election has to have three things. It needs to be secure so that your vote can't be changed. It has to be anonymous so that people can't know how you voted. And it also has to be accurate. That means that your vote has to be correctly stored and counted. And without those things, you don't really have a fair election. Now, the problem with internet voting is it opens up the voting system to the entire world. Anyone with an internet connection can start to attack it and seek to undermine that, often undetectably. And what we've seen over time is that state-level attackers, but also criminal groups, are getting more resources and more sophistication in how they can do online attacks.
Estonia today is the only country that uses internet voting for a very large fraction of their national elections. About 20% of all votes in recent elections have been cast using an internet voting system. In October 2013, we assembled an international team of independent experts in electronic voting and computer security to examine the Estonian system.
We didn't see a polished, fully documented procedural approach of maintaining the back-end systems for the elections.
I was shocked at what I found. Processes and procedures changed on a daily basis. There were attempts to hide errors. CDs were being loaded into this system with no apparent audit trails, just being pulled in and out of backpacks.
After that, we came back to our laboratory and recreated their system using the real source code and the actual client software. And we did a complete security analysis to figure out what kinds of attacks might be possible. There are 2 points in the system that would be particularly appealing for a state-level attacker. In our lab, we simulated attacks against both. The first attack targets the voter's home computer, which typically has poor security and is highly susceptible to malware.
According to some surveys, about 30% of computers worldwide are infected with malware. They're oftentimes part of something called a botnet, malware that talks to each other, has a whole network. If a machine is part of a botnet, the botnet master can install any malware they want onto that computer. Say an attacker wants to infect many machines, they can go to a bot master and then just rent one out.
Although the online voting process contains several security safeguards, demonstration malware we built defeats them all. Let's watch a sample vote using the real election software. In Estonia, every voter's national ID card contains a secure crypto chip. The voter uses their card, together with a secret PIN, to log in to the election server. After selecting a candidate, the voter uses the card to digitally sign and cast the ballot. As an added security check, they can use a smartphone app to confirm that the vote was correctly recorded. What you couldn't see is that our malware was running in the background and recording the voter's secret PINs. The next time the voter inserts their ID card, say to access their bank account, the malware uses the PINs to cast a replacement vote and overrides the voter's choices, in this case, changing the vote to Dictator Drew. In a real attack, this process would be completely invisible. For our second simulated attack, we focused on the Estonian voting system's central servers. These servers are blindly trusted to give an honest count, making them an extremely attractive target. Our server attack involves the use of Trojan software on the machine that election officials use to set up all other election servers. This machine could be infected either by an insider installing the Trojan on the machine or by a state-level attacker exploiting a vulnerability. Before the election, unsuspecting officials use the infected machine to burn installation DVDs. The officials check the integrity of the software, but the infection causes the machine to lie and indicate that everything is normal. When officials use the infected DVDs to install software on each election server, it silently installs the vote-stealing software too. Then, when the election is over, votes are decrypted and counted on the counting server. The malicious portion of the software is invisibly triggered, It intercepts each vote as it is decrypted, modifying a fraction of the votes to be in favor of a candidate selected by the attacker. These false votes get recorded and reported in public totals. 10 years ago, cyber warfare might have seemed like science fiction, but in the recent years it's become something you read about almost every week. Chinese attackers breaking into American companies, the NSA spying on people all around the world. Even in Estonia, they suffered online attacks.
So one thing that was surprising is that I was able to implement these attacks successfully in not that much time. You can imagine what someone with more experience and more resources working for a government could do.
The thing that surprised me was the smallest little flaw, that little mistake that somebody made or didn't think to account for could make the whole system vulnerable.
Security is just so difficult because as a defender, you have to get everything right, but the attacker has to find only one flaw. Estonia's internet voting system is actually quite sophisticated, and they've done a lot of things right. It was built by people who had intimate knowledge of security. They made large parts of the system open source. They've documented their procedures, and they have video of almost every step of the process. But these things are not enough. The system is still susceptible to being compromised by state-level attackers.
We never thought we would see as many problems and vulnerabilities as we did, and we felt duty-bound to make the public aware of those problems, which we are now doing.
In my assessment, no country in the world today can do internet voting safely, and it's going to be a decade, if ever, before we're able to solve some of the central security problems at stake.
I would recommend Estonia to return to a paper ballot only system.
I think they have an excellent e-government system. I think that they should absolutely continue to develop and improve that, but they should probably take the e-voting part of it offline. And they have a very well-organized paper ballot system and simply revert back to that.